Hello, everyone. We're back again. Yeah, we're going to be spinning this, which actually you could see the colors of it better than I thought you'd be able to. It's deceptively plain. I have a lot of other colors in here. Hopefully it'll be interesting. We're probably just going to start with what's the word, pre-drafting it, because, or at least we're going to pre-draft a little bit and just see how it goes. Because I have a feeling that it's not going to be the most obliging thing to draft, because I didn't necessarily open up all the fibers before I put them on the blending board. So yeah, this definitely needs to be pre-drafted. So we are going to start by pre-drafting it, which kind of ruins the big rolag thing. But the thing about these big rolags is they're actually not, like, they're a decent way to store your fiber for sure, but they're not a good way to spin your fiber unless you've managed to keep it really light and fluffy, which is quite hard. So we're just going to pull it out into a, I don't know, I guess it's sort of just a like roving type preparation. It's very colorful. I'm really curious what how it's gonna turn out. Hopefully well. Anyway, I started this stream literally 45 minutes later than I meant to, because I was baking. And yeah, I got distracted baking, making some cornbread. Oh, and also, so I washed the last batch of cotton, and it was absolutely filthy. Scoured it is probably the right word. I scoured the last batch of cotton. Yeah, it was absolutely filthy. But it's currently in the alum bath, mordanting, and I'm very curious to see how it'll dye up. See, now that I've said that, I'm actually doubting myself on whether or not the alum that I have is the kind of alum that you can dye cotton with. I hope so. I'm pretty sure. I'm not positive, but I am pretty sure. I feel like I've tried it before and it worked okay. But yeah, that's actually not. I don't think that is, though. I don't think it's the one that it's supposed to be. There's a couple different kinds of alum. Like it can refer to multiple different kinds of mold. But I mean, it's a learning process. Cotton dyeing is as much of a learning process as cotton spinning, if not more. Chuck, you are gonna make a super loud noise. Why do you want up on my wheelchair, bro? Is that even allowed? She's not usually interested in my wheelchair. I think it's too high for her. But this time she wants it. Okay, go on. I believe in you. She doesn't believe in herself. Buddy, if you stand on here, then you can sit down the way that I sit down using the foot plate. Yeah. Smart enough to figure it out? No. No, she's not. That's okay. I think she's, go on. Hey, she did it. Not the way that she should have, but she did it. All right. She's never sat up there by herself before. She does sit in my lap on the wheelchair sometimes. Pretty much just when I'm bringing her outside to go on a walk. Because I do take her on walks. Kind of have to. It's really difficult to exercise a cat when you yourself cannot exercise that much. So I, ride in my wheelchair, obviously, and have her on a harness and leash, and then she walks. I still don't know if she likes it. It's really hard to tell whether or not she actually enjoys it at all. All right, I'm going to leave this part pulled because I feel like it's a really good example of what it looks like, and it's really pretty, and I don't need to pull all of it out, and also my hands are hurting. So due to all those reasons, and look at this too. That's also really nice. I'm excited. I think this should turn out really well. Let's see. Okay, I want to spin it end to end if I possibly can, because I was doing sort of like one side pink and one side blue. So I would like to keep that if I can. I have no idea if it'll actually show up in the colors, but might as well try, right? Usually do enjoy at least giving that a shot. Oh, but the place that I was going with that whole bit about alum is I will probably have to get up in about half an hour, actually I think less, to go turn off the stove because I don't really want to see what happens if you boil cotton for several hours. It might degrade somewhat. We're not going to do that, that's for sure. Okay, pre-drafting a little bit. I honestly haven't decided yet how I plan on flying this. I think it's going to depend a little bit. Oh, chop. I think it's going to depend a little bit on how even / uneven it ends up being. Which, as I work with it at the moment, I'm thinking probably pretty uneven. This does not feel like it's gonna. I think it's gonna cooperate spinning into a yarn just fine, but spinning into a yarn and spinning into an even yarn are two different things. At least for me. I don't know if that's true for anyone else, but I'm just not an even spinner. It's not who I am. I really want to see if I can do any sort of long draw, but I'm not sure if it'll work on this particular track because I had such bits. I had to roll it up pretty tightly. I tried to keep it loose, but it just did not work. So we'll see. But either way, I'm really excited. It's going to be pretty. Yeah. And it's been so long since I spun wool, so I'm excited to spin some wool. I have no idea what's in this, by the way. Like, there's some things that obviously I know what it is, but mostly not. The bulk of it is made up of something that I have no clue what it is or where I got it, and I'm only mostly sure it's wool. I'm not like totally sure. So there's that. Yeah, this is pretty hard to draft, but it actually is more even than I thought. So that's nice. I might not say much for the next minute or so because I think I gotta focus a little and try and figure out what exactly. Bear with me. I really like it. In case you can't tell, I just realized though that this is on the highest whorl, which I actually did not at all mean to do. Oh man, damn it. And as a result, this ply test bit is really quite rough. I might keep it. I don't usually spin wool like this, so it'd be very interesting if nothing else. But I'll keep in mind that I should not treadle too quickly. And maybe I should speed up my drafting just a little bit. This is one of those times, one of those rare times, honestly, where I'm like, man, I kind of wish I had two treadles. Because, like, with one treadle, um, when you're trying to go slowly, you kind of run into similar issues as if you're trying to ride a bike really slowly. It's difficult. Um, on a bike, the main issue is that it's really difficult to balance when you're not moving, but it is also difficult not to throw yourself off balance when you have to put in the effort to really slowly turn the wheel, like at the top part. And what I always remember noticing was that what would happen is I'd reach the apex of the turn, and then like I'd kind of have to jerk the pedal a little bit to actually get over that apex, and then once I got there, I would like kind of start falling. Um, and it's similar on a spinning wheel. You have to put some effort into going over like the apex if you're going really slowly. If you're not going slowly, then it really doesn't matter. But if you are going slowly, it's kind of hard. But for whatever reason, I'm pretty sure that double treadles, you probably still get that issue to an extent, but I think less of an extent. And I have a feeling that, oh, look at that. I don't know if you can actually see the lock structure. Yeah, you can. That's so pretty. Hang on. There's got to be a way to. There we go. It's so crimpy. I really like it. Anyway, I had a feeling that all these different transitions was going to be hard because it pretty much always is. It's just hard to keep it even. And yeah, it is. Yeah, I gotta grab this. Oh, that was weirdly painful. Okay. That's typically what gets me in bats. Like a lot of my bats are incredibly uneven, and that is exactly why. um, like that transition is really, really difficult. It's less difficult if you have actually fully opened everything up, which, as you can probably guess, I usually don't. I thought I opened this up a hell of a lot more, but obviously I didn't. Um, the thing is, though, when you do it this way, you do get these really beautiful chunks of color, um, and it's easier and less work. And those two facts combined mean that this is usually how I make bats. Not how I make them to sell, and not how I make them if they're a gift, but if they're for me, oh yeah, that's what's happening. Because it's just so much easier. So like, I don't know. I don't mind kind of having to fight a tiny bit for it to work. I think it can almost be a puzzle sometimes. Um, like I probably wouldn't do this if I wanted to really relax and turn my brain off, because it is difficult, but it's also rewarding, in my opinion. And this was made of um, several random handfuls of locks, most of which I think were long wool, and some of which was what's it called, mohair, and then also random bits of fluff that I had lying around. A rolag that I found made of what was definitely naturally dyed wool, but I don't know the breed. Like it's clearly mine. I recognize the color, but I have no idea what breed it was. And the more you process wool, the harder it is to tell the breed. Like I feel like I can usually um, tell the breed of things that I've bought, not just like every single sheep breed in the world, but of the fleeces that I have, I can tell what the breed is if I just look at the locks and feel it. But then once it's been turned into something, now you can't look at the lock structure, you can't look at the length of the lock, uh, you can't really see much about elasticity, and it completely changes the facts of what you're looking at. So due to that, it's pretty difficult to tell what this is. There's also some silk in it because it was sitting next to me and I was kind of intrigued. I think it's just some dyed silk noil that I added just for a bit of fun, a bit of texture. I don't know if we'll encounter it and notice or not because this is so busy that I think it's possible we might not. And then it was also a lot of the time when I'm making bats or other such things, I will keep back when I'm spinning it. I'll keep back like the wispy ends and such, and then I'll use those in another bat for another, like a really interesting, ultra colorful section. Um, and especially if you have a bat that's mostly one color, it adds these beautiful pops. So I like to do that. I really like this. This is fascinating. Is I think it's almost certainly going to be a bag. That's what I was planning on when I made it, which is why I put so much long wool in here. And now that I've also accidentally spun it on the highest whorl and didn't notice until it was too late to undo it easily, I think it's destined to be a bag because I don't know what else I could make out of it, but it's so pretty. Very pretty. It is turning my brand new tights all different colors and making them very hairy. But I did have a feeling that would happen. I'm testing them out right now. My plan when I got home today was to get my tights and then go outside and smoke some weed and see how they felt. But they literally arrived right before I started the stream. So I went, like I got dressed again. I went back outside to go grab these and see how I feel wearing them on stream. Fingers crossed that they work, because if they don't work, it's going to be because of the seam that runs along the front and the back that I completely forgot they would probably have. And I don't know how to find seamless tights. I don't know if that's a thing. They feel pretty comfortable. Like so far, it's a hell of a lot more comfortable than my usual sweatpants. I don't think I usually wear sweatpants on stream, but I do usually wear sweatpants at work. And that's actually the only thing I wear to work is sweatpants. But you know, in my defense, they're one of the more comfortable pairs of pants, which is unfortunate because they're super comfortable. I just literally can't like wear my jeans anymore because of the seams and pressure under it. This silk, I think I have encountered the silk, or else I've encountered something else. I don't remember what the silk looks like. It does not want to stick to the wool, so we might end up pulling out an entire little baggie of silk oil, and I keep dropping the ball, literally, like the ball of prepared fiber. I keep dropping it, and it's annoying. It's not easy to pick up. But anyway, yeah, we might end up picking all that silk oil back out. That happens sometimes with inclusions like this. I find it difficult to predict when it will and won't happen, and it doesn't happen that often, but like it certainly does happen. Mostly with ones that have a really, really short staple length. Silk noil is mostly made up of fibers that have like no staple length. Like they're the chewed up ends of a silk cocoon. And typically you get silk noil from the type of silkworm farming that lets the silkworms emerge from the cocoons. And then they mate and die immediately afterwards. But if you do that, then since they sort of break their way out again, you get all of these bits of short fibers that really cannot be used, and you also can't really reel the silk either as easily or at all. But this is the result of that. Because with a untouched silk cocoon that still has the bug inside, the silkworm inside rather, what instead happens is you can just reel the entire thing off once you find the end, which I've never done any of this, by the way. I'm describing a process that I've seen and read about, but not done. So take all that with a grain of salt. Anyway, I imagine that unreeling a silk cocoon, or like finding the end of a silk cocoon, might be somewhat like finding the end of a ball of yarn, or like finding the end of a singles that got like, that snapped and unburied itself in the bobbin. I have a feeling. Which, yeah, it sounds frustrating. I've always really wanted to try doing stuff. I just have not had the opportunity. But anyway, this is what that's made of, is those chewed up ends. And I think because it's not really, like, it's not sticky the way that wool is. It doesn't stick to itself. Because of that, it does not want to stick to technical difficulty. They're actually not technical difficulties. Fibrous difficulties. That sounds kind of gross. There we go. There we go. Back to it. I think it might have been Shetland. I've been trying to tell as I'm spinning it exactly that anonymous pink rolag that I used is made of. And I think maybe Shetland, but probably one of the rougher Shetlands that I have. Or it could be something else. I know I have that color of Shetland, but it's an easy color to get. That sort of like dry and dusty pink. You get it from avocados really easily if you don't dye it perfectly. So I've got that in a lot of different places. Like it feels soft-ish, but what is that? It's so colorful and beautiful. I'm really loving it. I don't know how much of the color you can see. I guess probably not much, given the background of random items. Maybe if I move the bobbin like more over here, and then move me. Oh, Chuck, are you sleeping? He's sleeping. She's looking at me, really offended that I woke her up. She's like, "You woke me up for this? Really?" Ha! We've encountered a dyed lock that has managed to tangle itself into a knot. when I was putting this on, it occurred to me that like it looks a lot like human hair. Like if I didn't know better, and well, I suppose if I wasn't a spinner and didn't know better, I would 100% assume that this was human hair, and probably the human hair of somebody who had dyed their hair a few too many times and maybe caused some chemical damage, because it's not the softest thing in the world. And in that case, in this case rather, it's just because of what it's made of. But it's it's a little unsettling. Oh, hi, Ciarl. Nice to have you in. What wool did I decide to do? I did. I made a. Hang on. I made a thing, a big rolag, and yeah, it's made of just a whole bunch of random wools, and a little bit of silk noil, which I have a feeling is going to be mostly pulled out. We'll see. But I'm really liking it so far. Here's some. I've pre-drafted some of it. It's obviously a lot more saturated in real life than it is on camera, although it's not like neon or anything. It's sort of a darker pastel. But I don't know if you can see the bobbin at all. Not super well. Well, I promise I'll take pictures once it's done. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's really pretty. But yeah, welcome in. It's nice to have you. I started the stream incredibly late due to various timing issues, and also I was baking something, and at a certain point of it taking a really long time, I was like, I should probably just wait for this to finish baking so that I don't like forget about it and let it burn or something. But that's good because otherwise I probably would be done for the day by now. So, oh, hello, Zertra. Nice to have you both in. You won't stay long, exhausted, but you wanted to say hi. Well, thank you for deciding to stop by despite the exhaustion. And hello. We're making this is definitely going to be a bag because I accidentally started spinning it on the highest whirl because I forgot to change it over. And it's really like, what's the word? Not wiry necessarily, but it's certainly crisp and sort of like hairy, maybe. I don't know. It's got interesting textures, but textures that make me think it'd be really good in the bag, which was what I was planning on doing with it anyway. So that's. You probably won't see Chuck on this stream because she's actually in my wheelchair right now. She almost never is on my wheelchair, pretty much only when I'm taking her outside for a walk with her little leash and harness. But I guess because I'm taking the chair that she was in, I like picked her up and removed her so that I could sit in this chair. She's like, okay, fine. Screw you too. So she's napping in my chair right now. It's very cute. I did just hear the timer on the cotton. Give its 1 minute warning beep. So in a second, I'll have to get up, and I think I'm just going to turn it off. I do want to get started on dyeing it tonight, but it'd probably take me a few minutes of preparation to go do that, and I don't really want to do that right now, so we'll just let it cool once the timer goes off. This is really, like, it's challenging to spin. Oh, man. Sorry. I have to attach this because I don't want to put it down again. I just got that sorted. Okay. I'll be right back. I just need to go turn off the timer and the thingy. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. It was boiling pretty hard. I don't know. I'm a little worried. I don't like. It's not something I would do with wool. Honestly, I'm not even worried about felting wool. But I would not want to degrade the fibers. And I have a feeling cotton can probably be degraded if it's boiled too much, just like wool can. So tightly spun. Yeah, it's a little bit more accurate, I think. I'm not the kind of spinner that adds a whole huge amount of twist. I think I add a fairly balanced amount most of the time, even though I really like durable things. So I might experiment a little bit more with adding more twist to my wool in particular, because I'm really enjoying this. And durability, just like it gets more and more important. It feels like with everything I make. Like I made a really beautiful, actually it's right here. I made this little bag. And it's just a project bag that I have hanging off of the control of my wheelchair. Just like I basically just have yarn in here, and then I'll be holding my knitting in my hands. But because it's on my wheelchair, it inevitably gets scraped against stuff like all the time. And so it's already pilling, and it's only like a couple weeks old. So yeah, it's okay. I was hoping I could like hold it in this little bag and spin it off that, but no. Anyway, I really need like a more durable project bag. So I'm making another project bag, even though I'm making a separate project bag that's not durable right now, just for funsies. The thing is, you can never have too many project bags, because if you run out, then you can stop. Like if you run out, then you're not able to continue starting new projects and not finishing them, which is kind of my forte. So gotta keep the project bags rolling. I also just really like making them because like it's easier to do it out of really colorful yarns or really beautiful yarns. If you only have a little bit, which is often the case for me, I only have like the tiniest bit left, or I only spun a really small skein of like the most beautiful yarn ever. And then I can never think of anything particularly good to do with it, but a project bag, impossible to go wrong with. One thing I don't enjoy about spinning long hair wool is that it tangles exactly like human hair, and it makes me remember how much I hated detangling my own hair. It's really annoying. At least it's not attached to my head. That would be terrible. So there's not like a huge amount of different kinds of yarn or different kinds of wool in here, but I did use a fair amount of my tie-dyed rainbow, or like tie-dye color, I guess, rainbow merino braiding. It adds so much subtle color to things in a way that you don't really see until you look at it up close. It's definitely doing that here. In this case, I added far more of it than I typically would. Just, I think, because there are some colorful bits, as you can see. What I'm spinning right now is sort of neon yellow. Actually, maybe you can't see. Either way, it's really working well. It's not something that I will be able to show you on stream. I already know that, so that's why I'm not trying. I'm not even sure if I'll be able to photograph it particularly well, but I'll notice it in person, and that is like I think if the user of the yarn sees it, that's really That's the main thing. Yeah, texturally, this is really complex to spin because of all of these different changes from like one type of fiber to the next, and then back to the first, and then a new one, and then the second. Um, so it is like doing a bit of a puzzle, which is harder on stream than I thought it would be, but it is also really very fun, challenging in a fun way for sure. You need more project bags for sure. Who doesn't? You really want to buzz your head, but you have to get your clippers out and deal with the sensory nightmare of all the teeny little hairs. Yeah, that's fair. I like if I'm gonna shower or no, if I'm gonna cut my hair, I always have to shower after. And that's part of the reason, one of many reasons that I hate going to the barber is like you have to wear all the tiny little hairs home before you can shower. And I hated that. Um, so I just immediately shower afterwards. And I find that that is enough for me, but um, hair is such a personal thing, like the texture of it, you know. Like I can only deal with having a shaved head. I hated my hair as a kid, and like when it was longer. And I part of it was definitely, you know, the dysphoria aspect, but part of it is just I don't like having long hair. I hate it. I hate being able to touch my hair, and I hate that it gets in things if it's too long. Not a fan. Um, I hope if you do end up buzzing it, that it's worth it. I hope that it's enjoyable after the sensory hell part. Little rainbow sounds really cool. It is. If you ever find some sort of rainbow roving, um, definitely recommend buying it because you can include it. Even if you don't have a blending board, you can include it with hand cards. But even if you don't have hand cards, you can still just hold it alongside another wool and include it that way. And it's just so beautiful. Uh, that's like so much depth. Never dared to buzz your own hair since you still have a length on the top. Oh, like it's really, really long, or I almost exclusively buzz my hair, so I have a hard time remembering what exactly it was like to have long hair in a good way because of my preferences. But on the other hand, I know multiple people who have had long hair their whole lives and really adore it and would never ever be okay with having short hair. And I totally understand that. Like, I mean, like I said, hair is just so personal. Everything about it, I think the style, the cultural aspects of it, the like color, if you're one of the kinds of people who dyes your hair, the cut, all of it is just so personal that I can't imagine being the kind of parent who dictates that sort of stuff to their kid, for one thing. But also, like, it's difficult to try and see myself in someone else's shoes that way. Well, it's short but not buzzable. You did have very long hair for a while, though. Fair. Your friend had this theory about autistic people having either really long or really short hair, no in betweens. It's accurate for me. I have the shortest possible hair while still having hair. Like you actually cannot get hair shorter than my hair unless you shave your head bald and then like let it grow out for a day. But 2 days, that's where I'm at. That's where I keep my hair. I quite like that. You just cut it all off. It's so hot there. It is like it's crazy how the difference of a millimeter or two can actually have a huge impact on how hot your hair is. Like when I shave my head after a week or so, it's not like it's grown very much. Like it's only grown a you know maybe 10 millimeters. If that, probably way less than that. And even so, the immediate temperature difference is kind of insane. I don't know how anybody else survives the summer with long hair. I could never. I absolutely could never. Especially because, like, you know, you want to shower all the time in the summer because of sweat and stuff. But then you would have to, like, wash your hair every time, right? And I seem to recall that taking a shower with long hair takes like 1 billion times longer than taking a shower with short hair. So just all around sounds not unpleasant, but like time consuming and maybe somewhat frustrating at times. Your hair color is important to you, but it's just your natural color. That's totally fair. My like same here, honestly. My hair color is just dark brown, but I don't really like the idea of it being a different color. I'm quite attached to the color it is. In between pokes your ears and you kind of hate it. Oh yeah, that is fair. There was a while when I was a teenager um, where I think I did like 1 inch on the sides and 2 inches on top, if I remember correctly. And I mostly had my sister cut my hair at that point because that's a like even though it's simple, it's a really hard haircut to do on yourself because you can't see the sides or the back, you know. And when it grew out long enough and I would have the hair like poking at my ears and getting in my face, it was like sensory hell, like absolute sensory hell. I hated it. And then when I got a haircut, it would be like relief. It's nice with my current hair length, which I can't imagine I'll ever do anything other than this. Because I just really enjoy it and it's so easy. But it's nice with my current hair length that if it grows out to a point where it looks ridiculous, which is like a centimeter long, it looks so stupid at that length. Even at that length, there's really not much of a sensory difference, except when I like touch my head. Like it's not getting in my eyes. It's not bothering me like that. So that's definitely a pro, in my opinion. So I picked a whole bunch more Oregon grapes so that we can dye the first batch of cotton with it. I have absolutely no idea what color we'll get. Because cotton sort of gets different colors than wool does, I've noticed. I don't really understand why, but it does. I've heard that with alum morganting on wool, you can get a blue with Oregon grapes. I have never managed to achieve that myself. But that said, like I don't know if that's possible with cotton. If it is possible with wool, it may not be possible with cotton. But I want to try. It'd be really cool. I've never actually gotten blue before. Like I've never tried indigo, obviously, or woad. They're not really native to my area, and well, not even native. It's like they just don't grow here. You have to buy them in powdered form. And I pretty much only use dyes that I either forage or come from basically like uh, onion skins and avocado pits and peels, for example. So yeah, since you can't find woad or indigo anywhere, I just have never ever achieved a blue. And I really like a blue. I guess actually that's not true. I did get like it wasn't super blue, but it was blue-ish from the buckthorn berries when I removed the skins and then specifically used buckthorn berry skin. But it was such a horrible pain. it took so long to get any decent amount of dye material, and the berry skins and the berry guts themselves were somewhat acidic and kind of were hurting my fingers after not too long, and they also stuck to my fingers really badly. So I would have to rinse off my fingertips after each berry that I peeled, and they're really small. Also, they're tiny. So everything about that was terrible, and it took a really long time. And I didn't even get that nice of a color. It was interesting, but for that amount of effort, I wanted like a stunning blue, and it was just sort of like bluish, um, like a light blue, like seafoam kind of color. Like it was pretty, but yeah, not worth the effort for sure. Um, Other than that, yeah, I've never gotten anything even resembling blue. Cool to get blue. I'll get blue. And if I don't get blue, I have literally no clue what color I will get, which I think is one of the fun things about natural dyes. It's always a guessing game, you know? Is all the wool naturally dyed? In this, no, definitely not. Some of it is locks that I bought that were dyed by somebody else, and I have no idea um, if they're naturally dyed or not. Probably not, I would assume. Some of it I got um, from fiber festivals, and again, I have to assume it's not naturally dyed because that is absolutely something you advertise, and I don't recall that being advertised. I've never bought naturally dyed wool because I've never found it for sale anywhere. So a small amount of this is naturally dyed. Maybe like a quarter of it, I guess, because the rolag actually makes up a significant portion of this fiber, that naturally dyed pink rolag. So some of it, not most of it. Um, I passed the unbearable threshold recently. It was a relief to get a haircut. Ugh, that's good. I'm glad you got it fixed. It's not fun existing in an unbearable state. What's an Oregon grape? It is a, um, it's not a grape, for one thing. It's a kind of berry, and it is native to where I live, but also native to pretty much all of the upper Pacific Northwest of the United States. Um, and basically, it's like a spiky, evil shrub. I say evil because if you try and pick it, it's you will get really scratched up hands. And I did get really scratched up hands, and it hurt, but it's worth it because I wanted to pick stuff on my breaks. So that's what I was doing. Anyway, so it's this sort of spiky shrub that is used. I think it's used in like landscaping here, or else maybe it just takes over areas. And it's got these clusters of dark blue berries that ripen in the summer, and they are actually edible. Although I've been told that they do not taste very good. They're quite acidic and a little bit bitter. Um, and I'm allergic to fruit, especially berries, so it's not edible to me, but it is edible to the general population. It's mostly used for like jams and pies and other things that you naturally add quite a bit of sugar to make it soft. It really needs the sugar. But yeah, that's what an Oregon grape is. Basically just a berry off of a shrub. And yeah, they're literally everywhere here. Like pretty much every corner seems to have Oregon grapes, which is good because if you want them in any quantity, you really don't want to be like digging into the bush to get the berries. You want to grab the easiest possible ones to reach and then move on so that you're not literally shredding your hand. They're not easy to pick. It's like if blackberries really hated you, is what it's like. But it's quite satisfying because it's so difficult. There are some times where the shrub gives them up really easily, but not usually. If you ever find woad and manage to process it, you would send me some. Thanks. I would appreciate that so much. That would be so fun. Invasive where you live. I mean, that is a really good reason to dye so many things with it. You can just like rip it out of the ground and everything. I like working with invasive plants too because you can go hog wild on how much you collect buckthorn berries, or buckthorn trees rather, that you get the buckthorn berry from. Those are invasive here as well, and nothing eats the berries. I found like when they fall on the ground, they don't get eaten by anything. Oregon grapes do because they're from here, so there's lots of different insects and small creatures that eat the Oregon grapes when they fall on the ground. The buckthorn berries literally just rot, and then they're pretty much just in like landscaping, but they can take over an area. Which is why you shouldn't landscape with invasive plants. But anyway, yeah. Um, when I find buckthorn trees, it's like I'm taking every single berry that's ripe. I'm leaving nothing because the birds don't want it, the insects don't want it, the mammals don't want it, and I do want it. So it's fun. I mean, it sucks for the environment that we're doing this and planting all these invasive things, but you know, you do what you can to mitigate it, right? I'm really wondering if this blue is actually wool. I'm, I'm not convinced. It could be wool or it could be something else, but I don't know what. Like it almost feels a little bit plasticky, but it does spin up like wool. So it could be one of those breeds of short hair that, not short hair, down breeds rather. Some of the shorter down breeds can, if, like depending on the way that you process it, can create an almost plasticky feeling fiber coat. I don't know why, but it can. And I'm hoping that's what this is. It does. It definitely has a short staple length, but it also like it literally doesn't feel like wool. It looks like wool in terms of seeming to have locks that haven't been processed, but don't know. Oh, you can actually see the colors though. Look at that. I mean, like you can't see the full range of colors, but you can see that it's colorful. So that's nice. Yeah, exciting. Anyway, so I picked a whole ton of Oregon grapes, and there's way more too that haven't ripened just yet. And also, I ran out of space in my little lunch container. Um, so depending on how this goes, I could easily do a whole bunch more. I mean, with Oregon grapes, obviously, since they're native and appreciated by many different species, you don't want to pick all of it, but all the animals can pretty easily get at the ones that are really difficult to get for humans. And also, when you're in a wheelchair, there's sort of like the ones that you can pick is far less than the ones that anyone else can pick. Just usually due to height constraints and the fact that it's much harder to get close to a plant in a wheelchair, especially if it's like if you're on the sidewalk and it's in this like non-sidewalk area. And so due to that, I can typically safely get away with picking everything that I can reach, and that's still leaving quite a lot, not just for animals and insects, but also for other people who might want to pick it because you know they can walk around the curb, for example. Um, so that's what I have been doing. And even with that constraint, there's still lots and lots of Oregon grapes left, and more that will ripen soon. So if this goes well, we might do more Oregon grape dyeing. I think it also depends on how long it takes to spin up the next batch, because Oregon grapes do not lend themselves to being frozen. If you freeze them, they sort of lose all their color, and you kind of just get a brownish out of it. To be fair, I do love brown, but you can get it really easily without stabbing yourself with tons of spiky leaves and such. So it'd be kind of a waste. It's fun. I'm like encountering bits in this where I'm like, oh, I remember adding that in. I must be near the middle. I added it in on the middle of the bat. Like you can leave little landmarks for yourself, which is, I don't know how helpful that is necessarily, but it's certainly interesting and fun. It's cool to see other colors appear on the bobbin. You don't really get that with spindles. Oh, I know, right? It's like it's not as fast with spindles, for sure. If you're doing something this colorful on a spindle, I bet you'd see some of it though. I guess it must depend quite a lot on the spindle, like on how much space you have. That's a fair point that I forgot. The smaller the size, the more quickly you'll cover up the different colors. And I guess, yeah, now that I've said all that out loud to myself, I'm like, actually, really good point. You don't get to have this length of like storage space to work with on most spindles. So, well, I hope you're enjoying it. I'm enjoying it, and it's a sight that I'm pretty used to because I've done so much wheel spinning. But now that you mention it, I'm seeing it through fresh eyes again and really enjoying it as well. Even visually, whenever I stop the bobbin, like it's got such different textures visually and literally. I'm so excited to see what this is going to be like once I've finished the yarn. I'm so excited. I think I might possibly end up chain plying it because I feel like if I try and self ply it, what will happen is it'll get really muddy. Like I think that trying to get a barber pole effect with these is not going to happen because the transitions are so short. So I think it has to be chain plied or left as a simple switch. I don't really want to do fine for that. So yeah, that will be fun. We may have to rest this before it can be plied. I'm not sure. I think it's just going to depend on how much excess twist I've been adding, and I don't know how much. I guess let's see. Oh wow. Well, according to this sample, not much. Although you do have to pull it off the bobbin to actually get an accurate representation. I just remembered that. Let's see. Okay. That's actually like less than I wanted, which is interesting because when I started this stream, I was like, wow, this is rope. So I wonder if that section was just really wiry because it was pretty much all long hair. That's pretty likely now that I think about it. So I guess I'll go back to pedaling a bit harder. That's going to make it harder to change my like random sections that are under twisted. But either way, I'm sure it'll be a really nice, fairly durable bag if nothing else. You never rest wool. Does it make a difference? It makes a difference in how unruly it is. I almost never rest wool either. I don't think there's much of a need for it in most situations. But if you're spinning something that's really high twist, And then doing, these are the only situations in which it seems to matter. One, doing a ply bracelet. Two, chain plying. And three, winding it into a center ball or a center pull ball and doing the like take each end and then do a self ply that way. All of those situations rely on the yarn not tangling when you're doing it. And the more it tangles, the worse your experience will be. Whereas there's really not much opportunity for tangling when you're working off of bobbins, right? There is if you really mess it up, but generally speaking, it's not going to tangle. So if you're manipulating it like that and it's got a really high twist, and especially also if it's fine, you really, really do not want it to tangle because you'll end up having to like toss it out and redo it sometimes. Or like toss it out and just remove the bit that tangled horribly and then, you know, try again and then toss out another bit that tangled horribly. I speak from experience here. And it's really just if you have that exact combination of high twist and thin yarn and applying technique that involves opportunities for tangling. And that's not something that I come across often in my spinning. Like it just, I might have one of those, but I don't usually have all three, and you need all three for it to be a problem. So resting it, what that does is the active twist sort of becomes inactive and sleepy, and it doesn't try and actively kink up on itself the way that a unrested, freshly spun yarn will. And that's really the only, in my opinion, that's the only reason that you need to rest your wool. I know some people who religiously rest it each time. And I don't really know why. Like, I think that's sort of just their habit and the way that they like to do it, which is absolutely valid. Nothing wrong with that at all. But I don't think it's necessary. So, yeah, I'm also in the camp of I don't rest my wool, typically speaking. But, like, if I add a ton of extra twist to this section real quick. Oh, that's actually what I want more. And I just added like 3 times more twist than I have been adding. Okay. Anyway, this actually does not have enough twist for me to show you. But maybe I can really ramp it up. We don't want it to snap, but that's it. So you can, well, you can maybe see. No, you absolutely cannot see. Hang on. Move this out of the way. You can perhaps see that it's like, even if I don't fold it over, it's already creating these little kinks in it whenever there's any slack whatsoever. And that is the exact problem, because you need to have some slack, like unless you want to set it up in a really particular way, you need to have some slack available that you can use. And if it kinks up instead of being slack, it's just going to be so annoying. So incredibly annoying and possibly tangled really badly. So yeah, that's a long-winded way to word it, I'm sure, but that is why. I had a very weird day, so I'm not entirely certain how much sense I'm making. Hopefully that made some sense. Good night, Zertra. I hope you have a good one, and thanks for stopping by. It's very nice to have you. I'm really loving how this looks. This section right here, which I know is potato cameraed into like 5 pixels probably, but it's really pretty. I don't know if we'll be able to finish this. What time is it right now? It's pretty late for me. We might have to finish this part, and then spin and fly the rest tomorrow, potentially. Because I definitely don't have enough time to fly all of this. I don't know though, because I do think I want to add more twist, but I'm not sure. Like it'd be a much more durable bag if I over twist it. But I can always over twist the next bag, you know? Like fiber is technically finite in my apartment, but it sure as hell doesn't feel that way. It feels like I have, if anything, far too much. Although when I was looking for like random bits of wool to put in this, I literally only found one bag, and I know I have, or at least had, more of that several bats ago. So I either am going through my wool pretty quickly, which seems unlikely now that I say that, or I've lost it in one of the boxes that I still haven't unpacked, even though I've lived here for 6 months. So it could be that. It's hard to say. I really need to unpack things, obviously. The problem is there's like no space to unpack things into because this is a tiny shoebox apartment, which I don't dislike, but it makes it hard to lay out my wool and look at it. And it makes it very easy to put all my wool into a box and then forget where I put that box. So I have several boxes. I really need to go through them because they're like mostly just junk that I couldn't decide whether I wanted to throw it away or not. But I think living in a really small apartment has made me realize I love throwing things away, and even more than that, I love not buying things. Because I hate all this clutter that I have accumulated. I just need to actually put that into practice on the weekends when I'm cleaning my apartment. Easier said than done, unfortunately. It did make sense. Oh, good. I'm really glad. Thank you. I seem to like cross this threshold throughout the day at work of having said too many words and I no longer can hear what I'm saying or really make sense of it. And as far as I can tell, it does still make sense to other people. But to me, I feel like I'm just sort of word salading and can't even remember what I've said. And sometimes can't understand it while I'm saying it, which is not ideal, I'm sure. But that is just what happens when I work customer service jobs. And especially customer service jobs that involve constant talking, like mine does. I feel like that might be more of an autism thing than a customer service related thing. Hard to say. This is super tangled. And like when when you go to draft it out, it just tangles more. And it makes that hair ripping sound too. That's the worst part. Is it literally sounds like, when you're trying to comb or brush through a huge tangle and it's just like ripping it. Sounds exactly like that, and I don't enjoy it that much. Most of this I'm really enjoying, but that sound, no. I'm enjoying that sound. Also, shockingly, the silk noil is actually performing really well. Like I'm able to draft it and everything. It's really beautiful. And this tiny bit of fuzz that was causing all these problems when I first started, that made me think, no way is this going to work. That must have been wool, and the silk noil is fine. So that is nice. I rarely find that I can add silk noil to things and then still have it in there by the time that I've done. Usually I end up picking it out. because like it's just so short that you can't really draft it, and it doesn't stick to things most of the time. So you can't draft it as part of a larger thing either. And since it doesn't stick, it also doesn't want to just like sit there the way that you could get away with wool neps, like a tweed. You know, you can just sort of secure it in there and then have these nice bumps of different color. Cannot do that with silk oil most of the time. I don't know what the hell changed, actually. Like, I don't know why I can spin this when I usually can't. It might be because there's so much long hair wool, and also there's a fair amount of mohair in it too. And those definitely grab things differently than other kinds of wool. Oh, now that I'm almost done, I really don't want to stop. I'm really enjoying this. Like, I can't get over the colors. I love them so much. When your spouse is falling asleep, they will really word salad. I'm not doing that. Okay, that's good. And also interesting. I feel like I can understand why, like, you know, your brain is sort of shutting off when you're falling asleep. But I've never met anybody who word salads when they're falling asleep. That sounds like it could be very endearing. I think we're gonna have to finish spinning this. This is what remains. It looks like a little torch, which makes me happy. You've never tried silk oil. It's hard to get your hands on, so I am not surprised. And I feel like it's probably better if you're just spinning it by itself. For some reason, I have never tried that. I really should one of these days. I'm curious how it spins up. I've found silk oil fabric before, but it's like, you know, a bolt of fabric that you buy pieces of, and it's been machine spun and machine woven. And you know, that just changes it so drastically that I don't think it necessarily has any bearing on what it's like to spin it on a wheel or a spindle or anything like that. But I am curious. Now that I've got that to work, I'm like, hang on. I understand the appeal all of a sudden because this was really enjoyable. I'm out of frame. Sorry about that. You literally just start saying random words. It's so funny. That does sound funny. Thanks. I'm glad to be streaming too. It sounds like you're heading out for the night, so have a good night if so, and thanks for stopping by. I will definitely be putting a picture of this on Tumblr because it is so pretty. So hopefully that'll be there soonish. I don't know. And I think you're going to apply it in the next stream. And probably keep spinning it in this stream, at least like until my foot gets tired or something. I don't know. Or something starts to hurt. Because I'm just so addicting. The colors are so addicting. It is breaking sometimes, though. I mean, that happens when you've got such a random mishmash of stuff type spin. But it also makes it difficult to pull it out into one nice long length. Okay. I'll roll this up. And this. It's really interesting. When I was making this, I was like, this is going to be so fucking ugly. And I feel like most of my favorite hand spun yarns have turned out from skeins that, or from bats that were just god awful as a bat. So I should probably stop trying to make like pretty ones, aesthetic ones. I find myself working on it and being like getting a sort of painterly feeling of wanting to make it the way that I want it to look, like rather than utilitarian. Um, I just want this to be done correctly, which is how I feel about like processing stuff on hand cards. Like if I'm processing stuff on hand cards, I don't care how it looks. I just want to make a good rolag, or make a fast rolag in some situations, but not so at all with bats. It very much feels like an art form in and of itself, just a really niche one that has no use, even as an art piece, really, except until it's fun. Oh, you thought I was stopping for the night? Oh yeah, I was supposed to. I was supposed to, but I really like this, so I'm actually not gonna. I thought that there was a hell of a lot more left, and that I was going through it slowly until I actually got there, and then I was like, hang on, I actually could finish this. And I don't think I can stop myself from finishing it, so we're just gonna try. In that case, we shall continue. There we go. It does get really difficult to draft out these super thin bits, though. Like specifically because they're long hair. I don't know how much long hair wool you've worked with. It seems to be like people who've worked with a lot of long hair, they do it because they live in an area with lots of long hair. And I don't. I live in an area with lots of down breeds. So that's what I spin mostly, because you can just get it very easily from the shepherds here. And if you mostly buy wool at fiber festivals, like I used to, then that's what's for sale, you know. And also, I really love down breeds. It's my favorite system. So I think, like, for one thing, I just have less experience with long wool than I do with most other breeds. So that probably makes it harder. Just, I don't know it as well. But even so, I think inherently spinning it finely is challenging. It's probably easier if I combed it. I just hate combing things. But Jacob is the longest you've used. Jacob is beautiful. I think it's honestly less to do with the length and more to do with the fact that a lot of long wools end up with human hair type wool. Like it feels closer and looks closer and behaves closer to human hair than it does to wool. And that is like it makes a huge difference in spinning. It's not the same at all as spinning something like Jacob. Kind of in a good way. Jacob is like, if not my favorite breed, one of my favorite breeds. It's such a good wool. I don't think, like, if I had to pick, what category of wool do you want to spin for the rest of your life? I would never ever pick long wool. It'd be interesting if I had that choice made for me somehow and had to. I'm sure I would adapt and I'd enjoy it, but I wouldn't pick it. I would probably pick down. There's just something about that, like sort of spongy, elastic feeling from down wool that I really love. It's just so nice to work with, and then it's a good durable yarn. It resists felting, which I always appreciate, and also tends to be really fluffy and beautiful. But just the texture alone is like perfect. Absolutely love it. What's your favorite breed that you've spun? Mine, I would say maybe a two-way tie between Jacob and Southdown. Love Southdown. The Jacob you have is pretty great. Oh wait, I missed a bit. Let's see. You've used Surrey alpaca. It's like hair. It's so weird. Yeah, that's exactly what long wool is like. I've actually never. I've used other alpacas, but not Surrey. So that's interesting and good to know that it is textured the same way as long wool, as in human hairish. Um, Jacob you have is pretty great. Definitely agreed. Hard to go wrong with a Jacob. You go for Targi a lot when you want really soft things, but you think the Jacob is your favorite overall so far. Nice. If I've spun Targi, I wasn't aware of it at the time. I've heard it's sort of like buttery almost, which sounds really enjoyable. It's just for whatever reason not readily available here. So yeah, I've never found it. It's probably been in a blend that I've used at some point, but I've never found it on its own. I'll have to keep an eye out though, because it sounds like it must be pretty special. I really like the fact that Jacob is piebald, because it means that like pretty much every fleece you buy, um, you'll be able to like you don't even have to dye it. You've got the colors built in, and typically with Jacob fleeces, you'll still have some white, so you can dye some of it if you want to. Um, and it's just like I don't know, it's so fun playing with colors, and it's I do like I've gotten to the point where I do so much natural dyeing that it feels like kind of a necessary first step when I'm working with a fleece. And so when I work with a piebald Jacob, I'm like, I feel like I'm cheating by not having to dye it. But that's really fun though. I do like Shetland a lot too. I kind of forgot about that because Shetland is one of the more like one of the breeds that I spun later in my spinning career. I didn't start out spinning it at all. Um, but it's got such a range the way that Jacob does. Um, there you go. It's got such a range, but it's also just really gorgeously soft and very strong, and takes dye pretty well too. I think I might use. I just thought of this, but I think I might use the extra alum water from the dye bath that I was doing to see if I can dye some of my washcloths. That might be fun. It's either that or just tip it down the sink. I mean, I'll do that anyway eventually, but like they're pretty as they are, but I think they'd be even prettier if they were different colors. You have a hand spun Targi sweater you really like. Oh, that sounds awesome. I cannot wait to make a hand spun sweater. I really hope I get to. Because it sounds really fun, but even so, I don't have anything that soft that I'm working with. Um, I have accepted that it's either going to be an outer layer sweater or I'll just suffer a small amount maybe, and or wear a tank top underneath. More likely wear a tank top, but a nice, like really soft hand spun wool sweater sounds so cool. And also, like, huge accomplishment. And also, like, huge accomplishment. Spin enough yarn for a sweater and then actually follow through and knit the sweater too. It was impressive. You're enjoying the Jacob. You're randomly spinning the colors up. That's fun. That can lead to some really, really beautiful skeins, so that's always super fun. You've never tried Shetland? You might next time you buy a wool breed to try. I definitely recommend it. It's not just that it's really soft and durable and beautiful. It's also that you can spin it so much more finely, like almost effortlessly, compared to most other wools, especially compared to Jacob. Like I've probably the majority of what I've spun in my life has been Jacob. Um, and so that is just sort of what I think of as the default wool is Jacob. And even though there is quite a range, what doesn't seem to change is how fine you can get it. Like it changes some, but it doesn't change a ton. And so when I first tried Shetland, after mostly spinning Jacob for several years, I was sort of like shocked at how it was thinner than I ever easily got Jacob, just immediately, right off the bat, with no effort from me. So, like, that is why it's so suited to things like wedding ring shawls and lace projects and stuff. But it also means, like, even if you don't necessarily have a use for such fine yarn, which I often don't, um, you can get like a 4-ply that is sock yarn weight really easily, whereas you might have to put a little bit of effort into that if it's Jacob. Like Jacob doesn't really want to be that fine, but Shetland does. So it's great for 4-ply sock yarns for one thing, and also great for any sort of like you want a really refined product. Shetland is great for that. Dyeing finished clothes sounds interesting. I haven't done a lot of it. I've only done it once or twice, but in my experience, it is. It's not as enjoyable as dyeing raw fiber, or not raw fiber, washed, clean fiber, but hasn't been prepared. That's my favorite prep, my favorite thing to dye, I suppose. Um, and I don't really like working with white yarn either. Like I don't like spinning white fiber that much. I don't like knitting or crocheting white fiber that much. But when you dye it as a finished object, you can still do some pretty interesting things, especially like if you have access to beeswax and can do some resist dyeing stuff. Um, it opens up a lot of fun avenues. Which actually reminds me, I not only have beeswax, but I also have a book on batik dyeing, which is I don't know if like that's just what resist dyeing is, or if it's maybe just a kind of resist dyeing. I haven't read the book, as you can probably guess. But I do have the book, and I kind of want to try that. I might have to, now that I think of it. It didn't take as long as you were fearing it would. That's good. I feel like the sweater that I'm knitting right now is not taking nearly as long as I feared it would, but it's also pretty thick, and I didn't spin the yarn. But it's giving me a bit of confidence to be like, okay, maybe it wouldn't be like a massive, huge undertaking to knit my own sweater out of hand spinning yarn. So I'm glad it wasn't that way for you. But it's still super impressive. You love spinning up yarn the way the wool wants to be. Same. I don't enjoy fighting with the wool, and I basically never will. Like if I have a plan for it and it doesn't work because the wool wants to be something else, I try and change tack like as early as possible to just do what the wool wants. Because if I wanted to be fighting something the whole time, I would go to work. Like I don't enjoy that in my hobbies. So I do exactly the same thing. I think that might be part of why I end up with so many thick and thin bat yarns. Like I just with every draft, I sort of just do whatever it wanted to do in that little bit, which does not lead to an even yarn, as you can probably tell from the yarns that I've produced. Like it leads to a more even yarn on something like a project made of a bunch of rolags, but not this. That is for sure. I think part of it is it requires a bit more hand strength than I actually have to fight the fiber like that. I did have that initially when I started spinning. I certainly don't have that now. And so if I actually have to fight the fiber the whole time, I'm not going to get very far, like at all. So it has to be easy on my hands if I'm going to do anything with it. Which this is not the easiest on my hands, but it's not impossible, clearly. I think if I have both the time and like the ability, once I finish this, I might quickly go grab that chunk of silk noil that I left on my desk and put that at the very end because I want to try it. And I don't think I'll remember if I put it off till later. We're not there yet though. We have this left and then we have this left, but it's not much. So getting there. Enjoyed like every second of it. Most of what you knit is tops and sweaters. That is so impressive. Most of what I knit is socks, and that's like socks and bags, I guess. And that's so much smaller. I cannot imagine having a wardrobe full of like hand knit sweaters. That sounds really awesome. I hope that I will get at least a couple of hand knit sweaters in there. I'm really enjoying the one that I'm working on. Like, to be clear, I don't think it's going to be a very good sweater. Like it's made out of cotton dishcloth yarn, and it's my first. If I finish it, it'll be my first sweater I've ever like knit and completed. So I don't think it's going to be great, but it's one of those things where like perfect is the enemy of done, but also sometimes good is the enemy of done. And in my situation, like just the way that I make things, I kind of have to do a couple of them before I start understanding what I'm doing. And until I understand what I'm doing, I'm not going to do it well. And that's just my learning style. Um, I've encountered this many times. Anytime I try and knit a different article of clothing, that happens. I am suddenly recalling the thing that I don't enjoy about silk noil, which is, as you can imagine, there's bits of papery cocoon in there. There's not bits of worms because the caterpillars crawled out already, but there's just like all this stuff, this like papery stuff embedded in it. And depending on the quality of your silk oil, it may or may not make up the entirety of your fiber. And I'm pretty sure that the stuff that I have does indeed make up the entirety of my fiber. But I don't quite remember. It's been a while. I feel like I tried processing it a couple different ways to no avail, but I wonder if it would be cargable on my cotton card. I'm not sure. I may end up having to just sort of waffle around and experiment with it too much, and if that happens, I'll probably just do it off camera, but it could be fun to try. I am finding, even though this prep of a really tightly rolled big rolag that I then drafted or pre-drafted out, that prep is not at all suited to long draw, but I've actually had some decent success with the long draw techniques that I learned spinning cotton, which is super exciting, honestly. I would love to do some more long draw stuff. The fiber that I initially planned on doing the wool interlude with, that I think is perfectly suited for long draw. It just is not suited for long draw on my wheel, on my treadle wheel, more on the electric, the e-spinner. So I'm saving it for e-spinner time. Having a bunch of hand knits is really nice. Yeah, for sure. Kind of sucking at something is the first step to being awesome at something. Totally agree. I feel like it's a skill in and of itself to be bad at something and know that you should persevere through it. Like that in itself took practice and learning to get to that point. Because there was like definitely when I was a kid, if I wasn't immediately good at something, I didn't really want to keep trying it. I felt like there was no point. Like I was bad at it now, and I would always stay bad at it. And it wasn't until I actually managed to get good at a couple of different like hobbies that I really wanted to do that I realized actually I can do this. I just have to be really bad at it for a while and keep doing it anyway. So I definitely agree. You really want to look at sock knitting or at the sock knitting thing I talked about a while ago on Tumblr. Never been able to get socks to fit you super well. Oh, the Roxanne Richardson post. Definitely, I definitely recommend it. I actually have not yet knit a sock since I discovered her stuff on YouTube because I immediately cast on a sweater instead, as one does. Um, but the way that she explained things, there is a fair amount of math involved. But other than the math, the way that she explained things makes a lot of sense in terms of just changing where you put increases and decreases and like changing the percentages of what you're doing based on what your foot is like. It made a lot of sense. And I think it's going to make a huge difference. Like, I realized just while watching it that I have the same problems with socks that she does. But then I also realized, like, just wearing my socks in between, my hand knit socks in between, I realized, like, wow, you can actually see not just how not having a deep enough heel affects the entire sock, but you can also see exactly how it would help to do what she recommends, which is to use well, there's a couple things that she recommends, but one of them is like to use more of the stitches of the body of the sock to make your heel. Like I can completely see how that would fix my problem. Maybe not entirely. I'm not sure which I need to do yet, but yeah, I've been looking at my socks when I am looking at my feet without shoes on them and like just noticing, wow, I know where to improve this, which is a really good feeling because I kind of felt like I had plateaued a little bit with the socks. Um, like I've been trying to make perfectly fitting socks for a while now, and I felt like I had kind of like I'd gotten as close as I would get is what it felt like, and now I realize, nope, I can make them way better, which is really nice. But also intimidating because I have to reinvent the wheel a bit, or not, no, not reinvent the wheel, reinvent the pattern that I was using for myself. For many, many pairs of socks, I've used the exact same pattern every time that I already did a lot of like customization to for my feet. And yeah, I'm not necessarily looking forward to feeling new at sock knitting again because I don't have my trusty pattern that I can use. But nonetheless, like it's intimidating, but I literally cannot stop myself from knitting socks even when I'm causing carpal tunnel, and I know it. So I'm sure I'll be back to socks pretty damn soon. It took until your 30s to figure out that practicing worked. Yeah, for real. That's exactly what it is. Practicing works. I think it took me to my teens, but I was very much the jack of all trades kind of kid. So I was trying and sucking at so many things that eventually I just kept persevering with something long enough and figured that one out. I'm glad I did figure it out as young as I was, because I don't think I'd be knitting or spinning if I didn't. Like, I only got into this hobby because I believed that even though I had already spent like 3 months trying and failing to spin a single skein of yarn, I believed that I could do it eventually if I just like, you know, beat the dead horse of terrible yarn long enough. And I was right. I was so right. I think you've gotten kind of close to a good sock lately, so you really want to watch it. It's not just one video. It's like if you just look up her name and then socks on YouTube, you will find a lengthy playlist. I think like 50 videos or so. Um, and I have just been perusing it by title, so I've not been watching it in order. Although I think she did produce them in order, but I've just been clicking the ones that seem relevant and that interest me. And I've learned so much already. So I hope if you check it out that you also learn a lot. I think it's really helpful. You definitely figured out you needed a deeper heel, but you think you overshot it. Yeah, I that's a mood. I knew that I needed a deeper heel, but I didn't realize like I figuring out how deep, that was sort of the hard part, and I think remains the hard part. Except she gives instructions on exactly what you need to measure to figure out how like how much you should aim for. So um, yeah, super helpful on that front. Hoping you'll get there with sewing eventually. Me too. I've been sewing since I was like 5, and I am still the worst sewer I know. And I've literally been trying since I was 5. I don't know why I'm so insanely bad at it. It really does not come naturally to me. And I've tried to make several articles of clothing and just sort of given up partway through. Um, just from running out of steam, not even because they were going badly. I just run out of steam and I don't enjoy it as much as I enjoy knitting or crocheting or spinning. So I end up like I have this skirt that I was working on for on and off for a while that I really like, and I'm sure it'll be beautiful if I ever finish it, which is unlikely. But just every time I worked on it, I would always end up thinking like, man, I'd kind of rather be spinning instead and just go spin. So that's kind of my problem with sewing. It's like by the time I had the resources and knowledge to be better at it, I kind of had other things I liked doing more. I think if I'd tried to get better at it before I learned how to knit or crochet or spin, I would probably be pretty good at it now because I'd be a lot more desperate to make it work. Sewing projects are kind of bad, unfortunately. Yeah, same. I wouldn't even say kind of, they're bad. They're straight up bad. That's relatable. 50 is a lot. It is. I think she was doing like a video a day, maybe, is the impression I've got for a while, or possibly a video a week. But either way, that's a lot of videos. And they're all, like all the ones that I've watched had really valuable info in them. She's like, not only is she very good at understanding geometry and socks and also like knitting in general and just how all of that plays together. But she's also a really good teacher, or at least I find her to be a really good teacher. I know teaching styles can work for some people and not others, but yeah, I found her to be a very good teacher. So really excited to make more socks. I want to finish this sweater. we're in sweater mode right now. Not realize hems were so hard until recently. Yeah, I get that. I don't know if I find them hard, but I certainly find them incredibly long, tedious, and unpleasant, which might also basically be hard. Like it's possible that they shouldn't be any of those things unless you're doing it wrong. That would check out for me. There's a person like that who does videos like that about pants fitting. Ooh, just can't make yourself sit and watch it long enough. That's interesting and good to know. I'd love to be able to make my own pants because I have such a problem buying ones that I can wear. And I would obviously be able to control where the seams lay and where the pockets were if I made it myself. But I also can't see myself sewing pants right now. Got other stuff I'm working on. But it's cool that someone's doing that. We're almost done with this. I think I am gonna grab that silk noil. I don't know if I can make it work, like having spun some more of it now, because I finally reached a section where there's a lot of the white silk noil as opposed to just the blue stuff. And the white stuff is from a totally different batch. The blue stuff I bought these tiny little baggies of at a craft fair. Not a craft fair, a fiber fest. Why do I call it that? At a fiber fest, I bought like a couple different baggies of different colors of silk noil. And then separately, I also bought, I think, about an ounce of white silk oil that is definitely much worse quality. So, due to that, I haven't really used it. But I want to try. I think it's only worse quality because it has more of the bits in it. I don't know what those bits are made of, and I kind of don't want to know. I know it's not the worms themselves, so that's good enough for me. And I don't want to dig deeper to figure out what it is. But it makes it really hard to spin, for sure. But now that I've kind of got it, I'm really curious. With hems, you modified the pattern and didn't think about the hems at all, so the fabric doesn't fold up right. That sounds like something I would do. Like you just sort of made a pattern and made it so that you didn't have to hem it, and then it didn't work. I've definitely actually done exactly that, if that's if I read that right. It's J Stern Designs for the pants fitting. You have to look it up. Thanks. I will look into that the next time I try and do some pants. All right, I will be right back. Actually, there we go. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go grab that silk oil. So probably like 30 seconds, if that. Okay, and back. I also got my cotton cards. I'm gonna give it a shot without carding it. This is what it looks like, by the way. I'm sure you can't see the texture that well, but it sort of looks like cotton, to be honest. From far away, that is. But then there's these sections in it. Yeah, maybe you can see this sitting on the surface, and then there's some in other spots too, just these like brown bits. And they can be different colors. The brown bits are sort of bigger and easier to pick out, and then there's these yellow bits that you can't pick out anywhere near as easily. But it's still really beautifully soft, like buttery soft, and just sort of a little bit lumpy, which that might sound like a bad combination. I'm not quite sure, but I love the way it feels. I've just never successfully spun it up. So I'm curious if I can do it this time. Aha, it is drafting. Yeah, this is actually working. I'm a little shocked because it was so bad the last time I tried it. But that was also a couple years ago now. And I think I didn't quite have the skill toolbox that I have now, you know? Like every time you learn a new fiber, you learn a different way to interact with fiber. And I have a feeling that is what is helping me here. Yeah, so it's making this still really soft, really shiny, but quite lumpy singles. I really like. I don't know what I was doing wrong last time. This actually is not hard at all at my current skill level, I guess. I don't know how durable silk oil is. I will say that. And I've spun almost no 100% silk, like certainly a fair amount of silken blends, but just straight silk. I've spun almost none of that in my whole life, so I don't know how much twist it wants at all. um, and I don't know how durable it is either. I will probably snap this off and not include it in this yarn, but I'm enjoying it. Now, all of this said, I really, really want to try carding it too. I'm pretty sure I tried carding it on my wool cards, which obviously did not work at all. But I have not thought to try it on my cotton cards until now. So let's give it a shot. Is it just the bark the cocoons were on? Maybe. I know so little about silkworms that I honestly have no idea. Um, it feels papery. It could be the cocoons themselves. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if it was the cocoons themselves. It could be bark. It could be like mulberry leaves that somehow got in there. I really don't know. I think that it must be like I think it's cocoon because there's so much of it, and it's so embedded in. So that's why I think it is. But it's purely a guess. I hope this comes back off the cards. I only just thought of that. Sometimes you put stuff on these cards and it does not come back out again without a lot of forceful persuasion, shall we say. Okay. I got better by trying a bunch of different fibers. Yeah, that's probably true. That probably is what happened. You have a little silk roving. You just have so much trouble with it. The fibers stick to your hands so bad. Oh, yeah, for real. I have been told that using, like, one, making sure you use lotion before so that your hands are a little bit softer and less likely to snag. I've been told that that helps a ton. But also, what was the other thing? I was given two pieces of advice that made it possible to spin a small amount of silk, but not much. What was the other piece? Oh, somebody suggested putting like a tiny bit of makeup on your fingers. I don't remember what kind of makeup. I think it might have been foundation or it might have been some sort of eyeliner thing. One of the two. I don't wear makeup. And I really never have, so I don't know anything about it at all. So you can make top by just pulling it off of the cards like this, and that's what I'm gonna try to do. Because that feels like it would be successful. It's literally the only reason. And also, I don't think this would make a very good rolag. I don't know, but just guessing, I don't think it'd be a good rolag. All right, I still have a ton left on, but I also got this little wisp that I want to try spinning. Now, it's still really lumpy. I don't know. Unfortunately, because it's silk, it is so bright. But maybe when I turn it, you can see the lumps in there. There's lots of them. It's totally full of lumps. It's a feature, not a bug. If you want to make your silk noil not lumpy, you should not be using silk noil. You should simply be using regular silk. So that's not a problem. I like the textured aspect of it anyway. And most of the bumps, or lumps rather, most of the lumps they're not debris in there. They're just tangled up little bits of silk. So it's not like it's covered in stuff that is kind of gross. It's literally just like, this is working really well. Like shockingly well. It's really nice. Really beautiful fiber. Okay. Now that I've done that, now I kind of want to see what happens if we do pull it off as a rolag. I'm not sure if I'll be able to manage it. I'll try. Like I don't know if it's going to come off cleanly or not. And if it doesn't, it definitely can't be a rolag, but I hope so. Fingers crossed. It doesn't want to roll up well, but it did come off cleanly, clean-ishly. My next batch of cotton that I process on here will have some silk in it, but that is okay. So I think I'm also gonna just neaten it up a little because I enjoy doing that and I want to see what happens. It gets very neat and pretty, just as I suspected. This is so... I think I suddenly understand visual stems. That's never ever been my thing. But oh, and I'm sure you can't tell at all what it is that I'm looking at that I enjoy due to the potato camera, but it's so like the lumpy parts really are brighter. Um, like they're a brighter white than the rest of it, but then the fine silk parts are really shiny and they glimmer and catch the light. And it's just gorgeous. So pretty. I honestly recommend silk foil just to look at it. Now, I will say this did not work with my wool cards. It might work now, like if I tried it now, perhaps. So maybe that's worth a shot. But I wouldn't bank on being able to process it on wool cards. It sort of just didn't do anything because the tines were too far apart, if I remember correctly. Your hands are just kind of rough, to be honest. That is fair. The palms of my hands are quite rough, and then the rest of them are really, really soft. But I think that's just the EDS making my skin soft thing. How would I get it out of the yarn? I would just sort of not... Oh, actually, I'm not sure what you're referencing. If you're referencing how would I separate these, like the main stuff that I spun and then the silk noil, I would probably just cut it at the transition because I'm going to 3-ply it, chain ply it specifically. If you're talking about the lumps, I don't think you could. Maybe you'll get some next time we have spare money. Oh, the makeup. Oh, yeah. I think it acts as a barrier between you and the silk, but also the silk doesn't stick to it. So it doesn't get in the yarn to begin with. That's how I understood it. I have not tried it because I don't have makeup, and I gave up on silk shortly after that because I found that even though I was trying all these things, it still was really difficult. But I think that was just where I was with spinning at the moment, was not suited for silk. And this, oh my gosh, this works actually even better. It's really enjoyable. It's really nice, actually. And the papery bits, as far as I can tell, are coming out easier. Some of them are just falling out. And the ones that aren't falling out, I can just remove. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Like if you're hearing a loud crowd noise in the background, apologies if so. I live directly over a bus stop on a really busy street, and that does happen. If it gets intolerable, I think they've gone away now, but if it gets intolerable, I'll probably call it quits. But until then, I am really loving playing with this silk noil. This is really cool. Yeah, it makes the papery bits no longer a big issue because you can actually just completely, like, you can take out what remains really easily. And it's so soft. You thought the rolag might be better. Well, then you've got one up on me because I thought that the rolag wouldn't work at all. I thought the top would be better, but it's not. But that might just be, like, one, I only had a little bit of it, and two, I was just pulling off a really thin, wispy bit. So it's possible I just didn't give it a fair chance. Oh, this is so nice. I still don't know how much twist to add to silk though. Like, is it a high twist thing? Is it a low twist thing? I don't know. I'm guessing it's not a high twist thing because I feel like I never see visible amounts of twist in silk. Even in hand spun silk, it feels like you can't see the twist at all, and that to me is characteristic of lower twist yarns. But that might just be the fact that it's silk. I don't know. I also just haven't looked at a lot of hand spun silk, so maybe that's why as well. I've looked at some, like my own, and then also some that my friends have given me, but overall, not much. The other thing is, it's certainly not strong. Silk normally, I believe, is a lot stronger because the fibers are continuous. Um, and this is not continuous. This is a bunch of little short fibers jumbled together. Oh wow, we're at 2 hours already. That flew by. I've been enjoying this so much. I wouldn't have guessed, except for the fact that it's getting dark. Other than that, I wouldn't have guessed. Okay, this is starting to fall apart a little bit. I'm not sure why. Wrong amount of twist is my guess, but I don't know if it's too much or too little. I think too little. It may look like I'm having to tediously pick out lots of little bits. And I mean, it's not really tedious. I am having to pick out lots of little bits, but this is still a stark improvement because you straight up can't remove those um, in any of the other ways that I tried processing it. So the fact that I can remove it is good. I think the main thing is not that they're gross. I don't really, I don't know what they are, so I don't find them gross. But they're not a good texture. That's the main thing. Oh, you do hear large, loud car sounds sometimes, but not right now. Good to know. That's sort of the problem with sitting on this side of the apartment is it's right by the window, um, and that's why I did most of my streams on the other side of the apartment. That's farther away for quite a while, but the light is so much worse over there, and also the vibes of my apartment are so much worse over there. So I stopped doing that. I'm glad it's not constant loud car sounds. I was kind of worried about that. It's really, really short fibers, right? This stuff is, yeah. The silk oil is. You really like long draw, so you might be biased. Fair. I feel like you could long draw this. I'm not sure if I'm brave enough to really try, especially given that um, it needs high twist, but then you kind of can. Not quite, but kind of. Actually, no, you can. It pulls out and everything. Like it pulls out into a straight line. This is hang on. There you go. You can kind of see it on my leggings. That's pretty good for me, but also for silk noil. That's really good actually. I think the twisting is about prep. A lot of silk is real, not spun. True. That's actually a good point that I had forgotten. And I guess if it's reeled, you either don't need to add twist or you can get away with adding very little because it is literally one long strand and therefore quite strong. I think you're on the money there. You usually think of shorter fibers needing more twist, but you don't know for sure. Yeah, agreed. Like cotton likes a high amount of twist just to keep it together. I feel like you need more twist. Um, like when you think of how twist is measured, it's often in twists per inch or per centimeter. And when you think about a long stapled fiber versus a short stapled fiber, the long stapled fiber, if it only has like one or two twists in there, it'll probably be okay because the fibers span a longer distance. And so you don't have to actually be physically holding them together at as many spots to still achieve the same effect. But with something really short, you have to have a twist in every single join, like the area of every single join between one fiber and the next. And so something like this, where the fibers might be better measured in millimeters and not centimeters, that's like you need to twist every millimeter or every half millimeter, right? So that, I think you're right about that too. Like, just from a holding things together perspective, you need more twists per inch for shorter fibers stuff. It's not something I had thought of until now, but now that I've talked myself through it, I'm like, I'm pretty convinced. I might not be right, but I'm pretty convinced. Because, like, the twist on yarn, it's not just about making it durable or making it into yarn. It's also about physically holding the fibers together with friction. And if you're not doing that, then it's going to fall apart, obviously. It looks great. Thank you. It also looks great to me. I'm very excited to see how it plies up, among other things. I doubt that this is going to be a good idea to 3-ply. In fact, I'm not going to chain ply it because I know it's going to suck. And it's going to suck because the yarn is at no point smooth. Even when it's even, it's still lumpy because of what it is. So chain plying it sounds terrible. I think I'm probably going to start out with a bracelet 2-ply, to get this stuff done, and then I'll switch to a chain ply to do the rest of it. The yarn, the wool yarn part. This is also technically yarn, I guess. It doesn't really register as yarn to me. It sort of just feels like string. Like my brain is thinking of this as making string or making thread, maybe, not making yarn. Now I've realized I can go super, super thin. That's really pretty. This reminds me of spinning cotton thread, actually. I don't know how durable this is at all, though. I feel like it's about to snap. Yeah, it snapped. A premonition. All right, that's probably my cue to stop before I totally destroy my bedtime. My bedtime was half an hour ago. And I haven't even had dinner, so I should probably go. But look at what we made. It's so pretty. I'm so excited to ply it tomorrow. Super excited. And then I have to do some more with this silk noil, obviously, because this is really cool. Really enjoyable. I think it'd be really well suited to a spindle, perhaps. I've never tried it on a spindle. So yeah, I think I'm gonna head out for the night. Thank you for joining me on stream. It was super fun, enjoyable as always. And I'll catch you next time, hopefully tomorrow. Obviously, no promises because I never know, but hopefully tomorrow. And yeah, I hope you have a good night.